one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Normally, on most nights, we'd go right into public participation. Because we just had Election Day last Tuesday, and 2 board members were re-elected in this particular instance, we need to reorganize the board. It takes a little while because we have committees and things to assign ourselves to. So I think what I'd like to do is open up just probably nominations for chair and vice chair, get that taken care of, and then when we can address some of the folks I know are here tonight to probably speak publicly, we can do that. So at this time, I'd like to accept nominations for chair.
I'll nominate Joel for chair.
I'll second.
Motion by Mrs. Moran to nominate myself for chair, second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion on that? Another nomination? You were thinking, Stan. Do you want me to nominate you?
I'm thinking, but I'm not thinking of nominating him.
All right, then I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
I guess I'll abstain. So. Do I have a nomination for vice chair? Mr. Frieda.
Nominate Penny Moran.
Nomination for Mrs. Moran. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. McElhenney. Any discussion on that? Any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
I'll abstain.
All right. So if I drop in between now and reorganization, this is...
You're not allowed to do that. Way too much paperwork. Yeah, no.
Okay, at this time, we'll have public participation. If you're here tonight to speak to the board, you need to take the microphone, identify yourself and where you live, and then you can have your input. So do we have anybody from the public? Nobody from the public at this time? I thought there was a buzz that we were going to have public participation. Okay, well, we have another one at the end of the meeting, so we can certainly, everybody is all set? Okay, then we'll move along. Why don't we continue then with reorganization? Do you have a list of committees and stuff?
Right here.
Oh, cool, thanks. Actually, I think we need to do secretary. Yeah, if we can have a nomination for
Do
secretary.
you want it again?
Do you have a nomination
I'll
for Mr.
nominate
Frieda?
Angie Cardinal.
For Mrs. Cardin.
I'll
Do I have a
second.
second? Second by Mrs. Moore. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Abstain.
All right. Now we're going to have to go over some committees here. Policy committee.
If you guys could just remind me, any that might be, that I could be, where I work during the day, and it's tough to get to the day ones. Are there any that are at night?
Budget committee.
Budget committees at night.
Yep.
It's possible that some of the computer governance may end up being in the evening. There may be a balance there.
Okay.
Is that a new committee?
Yes. New, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was one that.
And the
Janet
audit committee could.
Yes, and the audit committee could be evening as well.
Absolutely. So anything in the evening, I am willing to do. So just to make up for the fact that I'm not here during the day.
Okay. So let's take a look at policy committee. Currently, it's Angie and Stan. What are our thoughts on this?
I'm willing to give policy a shot if somebody wants a break from policy.
Does anybody want a break from policy, or done it for a few years?
Yeah, I don't mind not serving on that one.
That's a day committee.
Right now, it's a
typically.
day
Because that's
committee,
worked
but it
for us.
doesn't have
Doesn't
to
have
be.
to be.
Well,
We
and if
could-
it's working and you guys are good doing it, I can't do it during the day. It would have to be afternoon, so.
So either way, I mean,
Yeah,
it's not locked in, it's just been Fridays at some point.
Right.
I'll nominate.
It's not a set.
Is there a desire for any board members to serve on a different committee? Is somebody saying, okay, I've been on
that's a
this
great
one
way to
long
do it.
enough, I'd like a break, I want to try something new? I mean, is that a fair question?
Yeah, it's
It is a
fair.
fair
I think
question.
that's fair.
I don't mind staying where I am.
Okay. Angie, how do you feel
Same
about
here.
policy?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll nominate Stan and Angie to stay on policy.
I'll second.
Do we have to vote on that? Do we typically vote on that? Okay.
It's good to establish.
There's a motion by Who's taking notes?
I
You
am.
are, Mrs. Cardinal.
I'm also copying this down. so.
Motion by Mrs. Moore and second by Mrs. McElhenney to have Mrs. Cardinal and Mr. Frieda stay on the policy committee. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Budget committee. Mrs. Cardinal, you're currently our rep.
I am.
Thoughts?
There's been some vocal requests to change it, not driven by me. I'm fine to stay as our rep. If the rest of the board wishes, I will abstain on this vote, just so you know ahead of time. There are 2 dates, if the meetings stay, the 4th Wednesday of the month, that I will not be able to attend. So anyone, if you did want me to stay as the primary rep, the alternate would need to know that, or vice versa. If you want to change the primary, and perhaps I could be an alternate based on that, because, I mean, that is 2 of the roughly 30 meetings a year that I already know over the
Okay.
next 12 months.
Anyone else?
Not
itching
30,
to-
20-something, just 20-something.
I don't mind being alternate unless anyone else would like to throw their hat in the ring.
Anyone dying to
I'll make a
No.
motion.
try to influence our peers?
What's that?
Anyone dying to influence our peers?
I don't think so. Stan, you have no interest?
I don't.
All right, then I think we can just leave it as it is.
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily have to vote on this.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, did you feel we should?
On this one in particular, yes, I think we should.
Then I-
Simply because we've been called out on an alternate trying to fill in
That's
that
right.
wasn't designated by this board to be
That's
the
right.
alternate.
That's right, good
Yeah,
point, good point.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's an official committee that's,
Yeah. okay,
governed by
that's
RSA
right.
32.
I'll make a
and
motion
such.
that Mrs. Cardinal be the rep and that Ms. McElhenney be the alternate.
Second.
Second by Mr. Frieda. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
And I abstain.
Okay.
So it's 3-0 with 2
Thank you.
abstentions?
Yes.
Thank you.
Buildings and grounds has been inactive, but I will tell you that it's going to get a little active. I would really like to stay on that committee. You're on that with me,
I am on
right?
that, yeah.
I want to start proposing some ideas for Little Red Schoolhouse. I know that there's been a community organization that has recently requested to take a look at it. I also want to look at some of the infrastructural things that are going on in some of the buildings that I think need improvements. And I think that committee might be able to start looking at some of those things.
Well, and as we look at the performance contract,
Yeah.
there will be more of that input
Yes,
as well.
Yep.
Very busy.
So-
Beautiful. So that's been Penny and I. How's the board feel about that?
I'm fine.
Okay.
You fine staying?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
as,
been a cakewalk this year.
as it becomes more demanding, we can revisit, right?
Right,
If it
yeah.
becomes more demanding
Yeah.
and we need more board support.
Right.
we do that.
So,
Okay.
Do we need a nomination? I'll nominate Joel and Penny to be on
I'll
the
second.
committee.
Motion by Mr. Frieda, second by Ms. McElhenney. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Curriculum Committee.
Who's on that now? Is it Stan?
I thought it was
think so.
Angie. It used to be me, but I couldn't make it, so I think, Angie, I think you stepped up at some point just because it was
Is that
during the
something
day.
that
I haven't been
requires
to a single meeting.
a board
Yeah, I was-
member on it? The curriculum committee is
Saying
it?
that right now, since the direction is a competency piece, I can envision seeing a need, not necessarily in the early footsteps, but as we start to make changes to grading and things that do impact families and outside of the teacher's realm, it would be useful to have a person on the,
I would suggest either
directions.
Joel or Stan as both having teaching backgrounds.
Yes.
When does it meet? It would be-
Right now, it meets the last Wednesday of the month, around between 3 to 4-ish.
As you get into
That.
that sort of work,
You
though,
can do that.
more of it is probably going to end up being evenings, because you're also going to need parent representation as
Right.
well. So I would envision that would shift somewhat.
I don't mind being on it. It's an interesting area for me.
Would you want an
3 or
alternate?
4, I mean, if I had plenty of advance, I could probably do it, but you want to take it together, Stan, and then between the
Yeah,
two of us, we'll...
let's do that. Let's split it.
Okay, can I have a motion to that
So
effect?
moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moran, second by Mrs. Cardinal. Any further discussion?
So is the motion to have 2 reps to the committee, or is it to have 1 primary and 1 alternate?
One primary, one alternate. 'Cause-
But we've
Or 2 reps.
undesignated.
No, let's do 2
How about
reps. because-
co-reps? And we'll-
Let's do
co-reps.
co-reps in the hopes that we both can make it, but if not, hopefully one of us. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
So buildings and grounds was co-rep as well?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah,
Oh, great.
sorry, yeah.
And
okay.
so
I
is
think
policy. Okay.
Yes.
Capital improvement, that's something that I guess I was on. I kept getting the emails. I don't remember being put on that committee last year for the life of me, but.
We went
I-
back to the minutes, and I was actually the rep.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Okay, I kept getting the emails.
So I attended the
going,
last
don't
2 meetings of
Okay.
it.
I just can't with the time that they meet, so,
And it shifted because it used to be at 5:30. So it may stay where it is, it might not, I don't know, but
And do you want to stay on that committee, or do you want
I'd like to, yes.
to, okay, I'll nominate Angie.
motion for Mrs. Cardinal by Mrs. Moran to be on the capital improvement plan committee, second by Ms. McElhenney.
Do we need an alternate?
Do we need an
Just-
alternate?
We should.
Or is it, it's only
I'll
one
do the
person
alternate.
or
It's only
person
one rep. yeah.
it's one rep.
I'll be the alternate.
And then by
alternate.
default, I'm on it as well,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so Mrs. Moran, motion
The
to
alternate.
have her be the alternate, is that okay? Second?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Health and wellness?
I'm on that now. I've been on it for 2 years, so it's up to somebody if anybody else wants to do it. I've been enjoying my time there, so I don't mind staying.
That one is typically once a month at 3 PM.
Great. Gotcha.
I recommend Penny unless anyone else has any suggestions otherwise.
Motion for Mrs. Moran to stay on Health and
I'll
Wellness
second.
Committee, second by Mr. Frieda. Further discussion?
And Angie is the alternate.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Professional Development Committee?
That's one that a board rep hasn't been necessary for a while.
Yeah, and I actually.
Do you foresee that
rewriting
changing?
the plan, we went back to the original rubric from the state, and the state says board member optional too. So there's no requirement that we do or don't.
I think I was on that, but I.
So if it's optional, I don't see a need for
I
it.
mean, the plan is going to come to you for approval anyway.
Right.
So
And we'll just keep it open at this point
I mean,
in case
you're
there's some kind of desire to have
welcome
one of
to
us.
drop in.
It's-
But it's not a.
It's, as I've stated before, sometimes we're talking about the recert of staff and stuff, and that can get, I think, a little intimidating to have a board member there when someone's being told, hey, you gotta get going on this, it's just, I didn't feel comfortable being at them for that reason, because that wasn't my intent, but I think that was happening, so. Okay, we'll just keep it
Should we say we
open.
tabled it?
Yeah,
Okay.
motion to table,
So moved?
Second?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The Data Governance Planning Committee. Was that an evening one?
That was me.
That was you?
Yep. That's a new.
It's a new one, but I have been on that, and I don't mind staying.
Do you need an alternate?
Possibly, we might want to consider one.
Is it evenings?
Some of them
Some
might
of them
be.
might be.
At this
Linda?
point, I
Yeah,
don't.
I'll be the
Okay.
alternate as long as it's evening or whatever.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Motion for Mr. Frieda. That was your motion?
Yes, Mr. Frieda and Linda.
And I'll second that.
McElhenney.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. 5-0, unanimous? Thank you.
And the Audit Committee.
I recommend, is that going to be an evening one?
I think it will be now.
Linda?
I will do that.
So, motion by Mrs. Moran for Ms. McElhenney to be on the Audit Committee. I have a second by Mr. Frieda. Further discussion?
I can be her alternate.
Okay,
I'll do it.
is that okay?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest it, but
Okay.
she's quicker than me.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then that's it for committees. I will say that this is not necessarily a board committee. There has been an athletic committee that's been established by Mrs. Peabody, our athletic director and dean of students, which Mrs. Cardinal and I were serving on. Mostly, I had gone to a lot of the meetings if I could go. If I couldn't go, we would communicate with each other. Is the board comfortable with that?
Yeah, it's not a committee of the board.
I know, but
Yeah.
it does have board, it has board representation. We typically do not go together because if it is a discipline issue with an athlete, my concern was that should that ever come before the board,
Right.
two of us would already have prior knowledge,
Right.
and I think that would be
Yeah.
appropriate, so, okay. All right, approval of minutes.
Wait,
Oh,
just a quick
yes,
question.
yeah.
Wasn't there some talk about making a safety committee or something last year?
Oh, right.
The
we
Joint
required
Loss
by law.
Management Committee is actually, the composition of that committee is prescripted by the state law that governs compensation, and workers' compensation, I should say. And so it is supposed to be made up of employers and employees. There's nothing I would think that would prevent us from providing the minutes. They're going to be public and things, but I think the way the committee's designed, it's supposed to be people that are in the buildings, kind of assessing things, looking at things, reviewing. Part of the biggest role is reviewing first accident reports, first injury reports, and saying, geez, was that a near miss? Could we do something to prevent those kinds of losses or those risks? So we have a great committee. A lot of people have stepped up. We've got people from all buildings. We've got a representative from each CBA. We've got a couple members from the custodial maintenance staff. We've got a nurse. We've got a wellness coordinator. So we have a pretty well-rounded group. And I would, we would all welcome board participation and knowledge of it, because basically it goes back to, taking care of the people, our greatest asset, which are our people, so.
So we don't necessarily have to have.
Right.
It's not
No.
required by law.
Okay.
All right, approval of minutes, December 17th, non-public session 1.
Those are sealed. And
Oh, those are
I'll
sealed.
motion to table A and B.
I'll second.
I do have that we can look at.
Oh, you have
Yeah, but
B?
if we have any questions.
Well, and actually, this is the one that you unsealed last week
Oh, so we
for
all read
limited
that,
purpose,
so-
so that
Oh.
shouldn't be an issue. It's already been
Okay.
approved.
December 17th.
December 17th, yes.
Do we need to reseal where it was unsealed for
It was only
limited
unsealed for
purpose?
limited
It was limited
We don't have to
purpose.
reseal, okay.
So we just have to approve them at this time.
They've been approved.
No.
Oh, no, they were
No,
draft.
they were
That's right,
draft.
they were draft. So yes, they do need to be approved. And you all saw the draft last week.
We did.
I don't think we need to table that one.
No,
think so.
no. Yeah, okay.
Have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to
by
approve.
Mrs. McElhenney to approve.
Thank you.
Do I have a second? Second by Mrs. Moore. All those in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Should we table 4, February 4th
We
then?
didn't discuss 4.
And 4 was not given to me, our recording secretary.
Motion by Mrs. Moore to table. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Frieda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes of March 11th, 2019, public session.
Make a motion to approve?
So moved by Mrs. McElhenney. Second by Mr. Frieda. Discussion on these.
Do you see the changes that I noted in the, all right. I don't remember what they were, because I didn't have.
They're mostly spelling and
Yeah.
nothing that needs discussion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
March 11th, non-public session 1.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moran,
Oh, thank you.
second by Ms. McElhenney. That was a motion by Mrs. Moran, second by Ms. McElhenney for approval. Discussion on these? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Except, well, can we just note that others doesn't need an apostrophe?
So noted, thank you.
Also in the next minutes. March 11th, 2019, non-public session 2.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moran, second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion on these? All those in favor? Non-public session 3 from March 11th.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Cardinal,
Second.
second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion on these? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, sorry.
It's okay.
And finally, non-public session 4 from March 11th.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moran,
Second.
second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have another.
Oh, we have a 5.
We do.
Oh. I did not read a 5th. Sorry.
Well, we definitely had this one, so.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moran for non-public session 5,
Second.
second by
Or-
Mr. Frida. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I have to say no, because I didn't read them.
You want
Oh.
to take a look at them?
It's okay.
It's really
That's all
short.
right. It still passes.
Okay.
4-1 is okay.
Okay, we're down to reports, and we're going to start off with Valley View's principal report. Mr. Roberts?
We have finished up one of our annual fundraisers, the Kids Heart Challenge. This year, we raised $2,300. We had 35 students jumping rope. Mrs. Barry also joined them to jump rope. One thing that I didn't realize was that the AHA, the American Heart Association, was actually founded by 6 cardiologists, and the goal is to improve healthcare and reduce cardiovascular disease. As you can see by the picture, the NPR was busy with people jump roping. Frisbee Smiles, which has been ongoing throughout the year, they were back on the 12th and 13th. This was at the stage where they were doing cleanings for those kids that signed up for them. In May, the final classroom visits will happen, and the program will be completed for this year. The other fundraising drive that we have going on right now is the Pennies for Patients, which supports the Leukemia and Lithomia Society. As of Friday, we had raised $3,694. Our goal was $3,500, so we've passed that. One of the things that's planning on happening is that Mr. Hall and Mr. Pringle will be sumo wrestling. We're getting big costumes, big things for them, and we're going to set up the NPR, so it's
You
kind of-
must video that.
Oh, yeah, I got a feeling it's going to be it'll be on our Facebook page, but yeah. I thought one of the coolest things that happened in this past month is that we actually had our first winner ever of the PTA Reflections Art Show. Declan Doyle won first place in the intermediate division of visual arts. As you look at the pictures, the picture that he did is the one on the right, I guess inspired by his grandfather. The theme, if I remember, was heroes, and so this was what he came up with. Again, not knowing very much about the program, did a little bit of research. What I found out was that the PTA Reflections program is a national program that's 50 years old. So Declan, his painting will be competing at the national level, so he'll be up against the winners from each one of the 50 states. We also, at the local level, we had 3 other students who also were winners in their divisions at the local level and competed at the event in Derry. And they were Zachary Rulo, Chloe Montana, and Andrew Zalaria? Zarella, okay, sorry. And so just, obviously, for me, congratulations go out for them representing the school and the district so well. And I really am excited at the idea that we had our first winner. On February 7th, we celebrated our 100th day of school. All the classes did something different. Some classes were asked, what would you be doing when you're 100? I really liked the one that said I'd be sitting on my porch waiting for my mail. I read that and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm hoping I'm doing that too. And as you can see by the picture, some people dressed up. And so this was one of our kindergartners who dressed up. Outside Mrs. Huff's room,
Like
she
an
had
old man.
an app which would take a picture and then kind of age it so you can kind of see what everybody would look like when they're 100. So it was pretty fun. So those are kind of the 4 big things that we've been going on as far as for students and stuff. So if there's any questions, thank you very much.
Any questions or comments?
Thank you for doing the research on the Reflections program from the PTA. It's something that the organization's been trying to get off the ground and show students across all 3 schools. It's pre-K through 12, grade 12, can participate in that program, and it's been around for a long time, and it's a huge opportunity for students to show their talents.
Right.
So for the last 3 years now, visual arts has been active at Valley View. Thank you to Mrs. Smith,
Right.
who has really taken that program and put all of the time and work that's required to make it happen for the students at Valley View. But we really want to encourage for next year that more and more students do the work. The rules are the students have to come up with the idea and they have to do the work. Adults in their lives can help with supplies and anything, safety-wise that they need assistance with, but it really needs to be their work. But there's 6 different categories, age groups that span, like you said, preschool through 12th grade, things like video production, music composition, choreography, photography. I mean, which kid doesn't have the ability to take some nice photos and that mean to them what the theme is?
Right.
So for next fall, the theme is Within Me.
That's right, yeah.
I had to think about it for a minute. So whatever that means to the student, they're to create some art, and we can help them submit it, we being the PTA. And
Yeah, and for all 3 of those programs, since they were new to me, I mean, I
Yeah.
sat there and kind of said, wow, what's the history? Because I don't know a lot about them, and because I've been a history teacher for so long, I default to looking at history, so that's,
This is good. So
Thank
thank you
you.
very much
Oh, you're
for
welcome.
bringing that up.
Can I ask one question? I see tomorrow night the JT tournament begins, and I guess this is year 11 of it. As one of the people that helped start it, I was just wondering, Joel, are you going to be emceeing? Or do you know when you're going to be emceeing?
I don't know if I'm going to be there. I haven't really heard from anyone. I knew that it started, and I thought I'd pop in.
Yeah, because I was hoping you would be, because I'd like
Yeah.
to sit down and
I don't know if
talk
it's-
like we usually.
I don't know if it's being, that's probably a good question for Mr. Shagnon, if it's even going to be, able to be. Thursday's going to be taped, so
Oh,
final
okay.
night. Well, maybe we can.
The voice
dust
of
off-
beyond.
We can dust off our
Yeah, I would like
headsets
to,
and-
because that was, it's,
He might have replaced us already. He might have something newer and better.
That's true. I mean, because I will say that, this is my 30th year in education, and the JT tournament is one of the things that, I don't know, I hate to use the word most proud of, but I am most proud of that. And simply because it's continued, and it was a great experience, and, it had its growing pains, but Louise and I kind of figured out a way to keep it going, and it keeps going. So that's why I'd like to support it in any way that I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll all let you know.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
And when
Mom.
the tournament starts tomorrow night here?
Tomorrow night here.
Might as well get a plug-in.
Absolutely. It's tomorrow night here, yes.
I think games start at 6, and they're
Six.
going all 3 nights.
6 to 8:30?
6 to
Yeah,
8:30.
Tuesday, Wednesday,
Thank you.
Thursday. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you.
Mrs. Richardson, Henry Wilson's report.
And just a quick question, are we still including these reports in the minutes as well? Perfect, thank you.
Hello.
So we have been busy at Henry Wilson. Our couple of our biggest highlights, I think many of you know now, we applied for Middle School of Excellence this year. So we had a team that we gathered that wrote our application. It was shiny and beautiful and really represented our school very well. And then we were invited to do a presentation, which is actually a big deal. And so a team traveled after our third snow date reschedule. We traveled the 13th of March to Southern New Hampshire and presented to the Middle School of Excellence Board. We had 2 parent representatives and 2 students with us, and 3 teachers, and the man behind the door came with us as well and helped us to put together an amazing presentation that's actually, I believe, on our website. I think it's on the SAU website. So you can click on that and get kind of a snapshot of what Henry Wilson is. The team was really blown away with us. The only kind of feedback they said was, keep what you're doing and make sure that you have some data over the next year or so to continue to show that you're growing from what you're doing and what you have in place. So we're really looking forward to continuing to compile what we put together and to showcase our students in our school. So it was really exciting. We have had our National Junior Honor Society. We had our induction. Is this our 3rd year, Ms. Vashon? That you've revived it. I think it's your 3rd. Yeah. And so we had 6 new inductees this year, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And we had everybody attend the ceremony. It was very professionally done. The kids took a great initiative to organize that with Ms. Vashon, and it was just a nice representation of our school. Mrs. Peabody had the Winter Sports Recognition Banquet last week. She says it was very well attended and also organized by the coaches very well. We had another PBIS rollout assembly today, and this time we're focusing on effort until the 12th of April. And so by doing that, we worked as staff on half of day on Thursday and all day Friday to put some things in place that we've been doing with our professional development, Read, Culturize. I don't know why you're laughing, Ms. Fashion. You did a great job on your work over there. So it's empowering everyone in the building to be a leader, kids and adults, and it's showing each other that we are capable of doing anything that we want to, as long as we all work together. And we're only as strong as our weakest link. So I encourage you, I have a copy of the book. It's unfortunately the only one I have. So if you'd like to take a peek at it, it's available on Amazon as well if you want to grab your own copy. But it's not just for schools, it's great for other organizations as well. So, but every staff and all of our teachers have that, and so it was a great time to be able to catch our paras up on that because they aren't able to come to our staff meetings, and we've been using our staff meetings for PD, so it was nice to include them on that, catch them up and move forward. And so they work to do a few things that we use as example for the students today in our assembly. They made some new bulletin boards around our building because some of them had been behind plexiglass since I arrived 3 years ago next week. And they, upon taking them down and finding the keys to open them, they had been up there, I think, some kids were seniors this year and some kids had graduated last year. So it was time to take those down and to make them relevant for our building, and now they have those keys and they can refresh them. Those are the ones kind of hidden in the 4th and 5th grade hallway for anyone familiar. And so they're beautiful. The whole building, everyone sort of took that on, and we spent about an hour and a half doing that, and the kids noticed this morning, and so it was nice to point that out to them during our assembly of your teachers are putting in the effort too, and what can you show to put the effort in. So Mr. Coco put a really cool video together for them to show them, this is what we kind of look like around the building, and we had some teachers kind of stage themselves and look like they were sleeping or leaning against lockers, and then rewind, like what does effort look like, and the team, the PBS team did a whole little teaching script for every advisory and homeroom to review this morning before that. So that team has been doing a ton of work, and it's awesome. So those are kind of the highlights of what we've been up to the last few weeks.
Questions or comments from Mrs. Richardson?
Looks like you've been pretty busy.
And there's a lot of stuff coming up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we've got the high school report. Mrs. Gardner was unable to be here, so is there anything that you wanted to touch upon, or just have us entered into the minutes? Did anybody have questions on it, have a chance to look at it?
No, I'll move to accept the March 2018 Farmington High School report in writing.
As written.
As written, to put in the minutes. Motion by Mrs. Cardinal. Second,
Yeah.
second by Mr. Frida.
I'm just.
I don't know, it's just so we
Whoever
can at least enter
All right,
in.
okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then the other piece immediately behind that is the program of studies. Mrs. Gardner's also not here to to do that tonight. Looking for first read, it is fairly lengthy. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to go through everything. We can revisit that on the first, but just to give you a chance to take a look at it. I believe there are highlights of additions and deletions
Yeah, I
that were
don't
made.
see those.
Okay, and
highlights.
they may not,
Yeah.
all right, let me go
So-
back and double check
so
and make
that
sure
would-
that the right version got uploaded.
As a first read, it's good.
Okay.
I'll motion to accept it as the first read, but I don't know what changes were
Okay.
made. And there's nothing
I will-
showing where the changes were made.
There's a motion to accept it as a first read. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Frida. Discussion? I haven't even had a chance to do a first read.
I haven't either.
When did you do yours this afternoon?
I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't get
Reading today.
I didn't get a chance.
I noticed it in there.
Okay.
All those in favor of first read?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm opposed. Just because I would be blindly just vote yes. so.
Okay. Under new,
I don't know.
are you moving on, or?
Yep, new business.
So under new business, the comprehensive school counseling program, I'm going to ask if we could table that. The counselors will be available to speak to that on the 15th of April, so it'll be the second meeting. We got it put in and then realized that nobody could actually make the meeting, so, and that's partly on me for rushing things and then figuring out, so.
Motion to table.
Motion by Mrs. Moran to table, second by Mr. Frida. All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I also ask about the trailer for the movie that's playing on April 4th? Is
Under
there-
new business?
under-
Yeah.
Under new business? Can we show that? Just the trailer portion? so
Sure.
that People at home will be able to see that?
I have not seen the trailer.
I think that'd be great.
It's pretty awesome.
Can we show it now?
Mr. Shagnon,
If
is that
Mr.
available?
Shagnon can.
Would it,
We just have to see.
You guys stall for like 2 minutes while the projector gets up.
Oh,
Okay, we can stop.
will it be on the screen right here? Do we want to, people maybe move around?
Well, there's the camera there. and
Oh, I'm just
so-
saying for the people in the audience
Okay.
that may want to just move in.
Yeah, get comfy. Did you bring your popcorn? It's quick,
I
right?
did get the opportunity to see it, and it is fabulously done. I'm looking forward to seeing it at the Rochester Opera House on the 4th
Awesome.
at 7 o'clock.
Nice plug.
Doors open at 6.
Get a good seat.
Yeah, you're in.
Bring a canned good?
Yes. Canned goods are admission, correct?
Oh.
I don't think I
nice.
saw that, so
Okay.
thank you.
Good to know.
He's screening. Screening of the film.
Not planning to.
I think we ought to.
And a canned good. Sorry, hate to hear.
That's all right.
He did say we may not be able to hear it very well because it's on the Chromebook.
Okay.
But the people at home can hear it.
Bitch, bitch,
she lost the baby in the accident.
So how did you meet RJ?
Hey, did you see the resource officer talking to Mr. Benny? He's looking for RJ. The one right here, stop sign. Is RJ okay? He's fine, so I'll talk to the cops afterwards.
Can you not talk about this? I honestly never saw that side of RJ.
And how well do you know RJ? So, people are saying that you're RJ's ex. What happened?
Yeah, it's not RJ, but not up to Gilly.
Look, you're an RJ.
Well, if it counts for anything, I like you.
Great title.
Nice.
Thanks, Mr. Shagnon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That'd be a good movie.
Did you want to talk about school funding lawsuit? You have that on that's on the agenda?
Yes, in the packet, we've been asked by the Kentucky Valley School Board to consider joining their, that's not it, to consider joining their lawsuit against the Governor, Commissioner, State of New Hampshire, and the State Department of Education around funding of public education. And again, I've given it to you by way of information. It was forwarded by the School Boards Association, 2 member boards. The School Boards Association at this point does not have an opinion that they have put forward. They haven't had a chance to review all of the legal pieces that they've been given, but they were asked to pass that on to member boards, and I have made sure that it was passed on to you. So I don't know at this point that you necessarily are looking. You could take it under advisement. I don't know that as a board you're necessarily ready to make a vote one way or the other, but certainly something to consider. You've been invited.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. Any comments on that, folks? Other new business?
Actually, could I just,
I think Mrs. Miller has
Yeah.
is that okay?
comment.
Sure. Under new business?
Yeah,
Yep.
I put it up in your board folder, and it is a travel policy. We don't need to review it tonight, but I was wondering if we could, see if we could get it on an agenda for an upcoming board meeting for you to take a look at it. There's no School Boards Association guidance on it, but we're being asked to enact one. Some of it has to do with things that we do anyways in the district and formalizing that. But I wanted to ask if we could add that to a future board meeting.
Sure.
And then I also have a request for an agenda change. It's to add this policy to tonight's agenda, if the chair would be willing to allow that. I just thought that tonight's timing would be good for a proposed change on that particular policy. But if the chair doesn't want us to, I'm not going to make a motion and look for a second to override your decision on it.
So this is policy BEA, which is regular board meetings? Yeah, we can add it. It's fine.
For tonight.
There's copies for everyone.
Yeah. Sorry.
I made one for Ms. Vaughn as well. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Grab one. So Mrs. Mellon's request was under other new business, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
So you want this as a first read?
I was just asking for it to be considered on the agenda. Do you want to review it as first? As the first policy?
We can
under
review it
policy?
as, we can
the
accept it
agenda?
as a first read if everybody's comfortable with that.
I'm fine with
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Motion by Mrs. Moran to accept this as a first read, second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion?
So our policy, as it was approved in 2014 regarding regular board meetings of the Farmington School Board, it said, it prescribed for the board that it would always be the first and third Mondays of the month until the policy changes. Serving on different boards throughout the community, nonprofits, whatnot, having a policy that dictates exactly when your board meetings are going to be is very restrictive. So that's why I wanted to recommend that we revise this policy. Number one, get rid of the category, because we keep saying this every single time we have a policy. Putting the category of recommended kind
Right,
of
it's-
dulls the fact that this is our policy. But it says, unless otherwise determined by board action, regular scheduled board meetings will be held on the first and third Mondays of the month. I wanted to ask the board to consider as a first read a revision that says, at or after its first meeting following the district elections, the board will set and publish the Farmington School Board regular meeting schedule for the next 12 months. So it provides predictability for stakeholders, for ourselves as members, for our employees, for our community, but it doesn't pigeonhole us into a set date year over year.
So is that
And
the
then-
only change?
And then the second page is just an example of what that would mean for us for the school year.
These are all Tuesdays.
Yeah. So that's what I would actually recommend, is we shift from a Monday to a Tuesday. Accepting this policy doesn't mean accepting this calendar. That would be for this board to decide if we accept and finalize this policy at a later meeting.
Was
But
there
I would
s-
recommend that we shift from Mondays to Tuesdays, just based on the number of times we've had to change our meeting date from the first or third Monday in the past 12 months. 12 months.
How many times have we done that? It
Well,
didn't
where
seem
there,
like it.
wherever there's a Monday holiday, we shift.
Monday holiday.
Monday
Right.
holiday and a snow day, but we would shift on a Tuesday if it was a snow day as well.
Not consistently. Sometimes we would have back-to-back Mondays.
Right, but if it was a snow day, we would still move that meeting to the following.
We didn't do it the following day, we did it the following Monday once. I'm just saying that it was very inconsistent
Yeah.
versus,
I will tell you, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a Tuesday, but I like the fact that we would, if we kind of went this route, we wouldn't necessarily be conflicting with selectmen's meetings.
we did create that conflict for our community collectively.
Well, we,
is a good point.
considering theirs is supposed to be the second and fourth, and ours were the first and third, it didn't used to be a conflict until they started meeting every Monday.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, so, yeah, things have changed over the years here. So, again, the request to add this policy and then this revision doesn't lock us into this calendar. All it was this could be a suggestion for everybody to think about.
Right, but once we adopt this policy, then we're gonna,
Then we would
on our
need to
next
set.
agenda, we'll start setting. Okay? So we have a motion and a second for first read. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll put that on the next agenda.
I have another new item of business. Our school district treasurer was, we had some write-ins. There were 9 write-ins for one candidate, according to the Secretary of State that the moderator talked to today, that first needs to be offered to that person. And from there, it's our choice, and I have the RSA here.
Did the Secretary of State say who makes that offer?
We do. The board.
Not-
The board does.
Not the, okay.
The
So
board,
not the
not the
school
school
clerk?
No,
Oh,
no, it is at our, here's it's RSA 671:33, which is vacancies. There was another one that the Secretary of State gave on who makes it, and that was 669:13.
okay.
So, I believe I was told that Mrs. Barron had 9 write-ins. So we would offer it to Mrs. Barron first. And then if it's our choice to go to the person that got the next, if Mrs. Barron says no thank you, we could go to the next person, or we could appoint someone of our choosing.
Okay.
Okay.
So is that something the board's looking for me to do as chair, or?
Sure.
Yes?
If you don't, I think that'd be nice.
Sure. I'll reach out to Mrs. Barron tomorrow.
And if you're watching.
All right. Anything else on new business?
Actually, yeah, I was just wondering if we could possibly get an update on the FAMI grant?
At this time, I have an appeal in with the state, asking them to reconsider our submission. And so that went in on Friday. I don't know how long that process will take.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Old business policy DID, fixed assets, inventories and asset disposal. Looking for a second or perhaps final read.
Do you want to speak to that, Jenny?
Well, sure. If there's any questions I can ask. Basically, the language is kind of what was, the language that was proposed initially comes from what was recommended by the DOE relative to federal funds. We decided at the last meeting to break this down so that we have a fixed asset policy for items purchased with non-federal dollars versus that purchased with federal dollars, because some of the capitalization thresholds are a little different between the two. And we have a separate section in this policy for supplies as well, because they define supplies differently than we necessarily do in a district. So I think the capitalization thresholds for the assets broken down by asset category was a recommendation our auditors made, our financial auditors. Those numbers are suggestions. That's something that the board can decide to change those thresholds should you wish to. But that would dictate how we would prepare our depreciation schedule and our capitalization when we prepare our financial statements. If anyone has any questions about anything, I can try and explain, but it's pretty much what they've put forward. Again, as I said at the last meeting, this is not necessarily the language that the School Boards Association has vetted, but we are being asked to adopt different aspects to deal with inventory management in advance of School Boards Association reviewing policy. So my recommendation to the board would remain what it was last year, that once you look at this and you're happy with it, maybe we could batch up some of these policies that don't have precedent and have our attorney take a look at them, just to make sure that we're not flying in the face of a local ordinance or a state ordinance that we're not aware of.
So you're not looking for a final read on this policy?
No, I'm not. Even though part of this has to do with a response to some of our audit findings, I have drafted some responses to that and referenced our policy-making policy, which can be lengthy, as it should be. Policy should be considered, shouldn't be considered lightly. So I believe that putting it forward is the responsibility that we have as a district. The policy adoption rests with the board, and that's not something that, I certainly don't want to rush you to a judgment on something that you're not comfortable with, or that you're not prepared to make a judgment on. So, we will put it forward where it's at. We can show that we have made the effort to put it forward, but I think that the board should take their time and make themselves comfortable with anything before you adopt it. So, no.
And as we will have, as Mrs. Mellon said, several, or at least a handful of policies for which there are no School Boards Association templates. So because they have not been vetted by legal, I would like to take those as a packet to have them read over before we lock ourselves into something that might bite us later.
Then a motion to table policy BID and GBEA.
I do have something that I wanted to hand out to you folks relative to GBEA, something for you to consider as you table that one. I had the opportunity last week to attend a Primex workshop. It was for employee handbooks, but it was given by a human resources attorney. And as part of that, he handed out to us what they are considering to be a sample social media policy. And I know we had talked about that last time. Again, right at the bottom is the disclaimer. It should be looked at by your own attorney, but I wanted to share that with the board so that you could kind of see what is being recommended that addresses that ordinance that we spoke about last time.
9080.
Yep.
And the reason I motioned to table the other one is that it didn't reference something that we had asked for it to reference in the policy as written.
Because we knew that this was likely coming,
Okay.
and so we wanted to make sure that we had both for reference before we jumped in with our own brand of.
We have a motion to table the two agenda policies. Is there a second? I didn't hear a second. There is a second. That's non-debatable motion, so all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? One opposed. Team opposed. All right. Any other old business? Any other old business? Yes.
Last meeting, we talked about setting the 2019 Farmington High School graduation date. Do you have a recommendation for us?
I would like to recommend June 8th.
June 8th.
That would be our second Saturday. Let me make sure I haven't leapt off a cliff here, but that's what I'm remembering. Let me,
Yes, it was June 8th.
thank you.
Same day as the
Leaning
wedding.
towards the
Same day as
15th,
wedding.
but the 8th was possible.
Right.
Okay.
And we're far enough in the bunch.
I feel like we're far enough in. As long as we don't get 2 feet of snow in April, we should be good.
Is there a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation that graduation for Farmington High School be set for June 8th, I believe, at 10 a.m.?
10 a.m.
So moved by Mr. Frieda. Do I have a second? Second by Mrs. Moore. Any discussion?
How many snow days are we at this point? 2?
3.
3.
Yeah, a week ago that moved the board meeting, 2 weeks ago now.
And how many before this is problematic?
Probably 5, we may have to look at some things, but
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
I have some wiggle room because we're over on our hours.
Hours,
So,
All those in favor? Aye.
Excellent, thank you.
All right. No other new, old business at this time. Now we're back up to our second public participation. Is there anybody from the public? Mr. Brown.
Board took a vote tonight to approve.
So just going to identify you. This is Tim Brown.
My name is Tim Brown. I live in Melody Lane in
Thank
Farmington.
you.
The board took a vote tonight to approve non-public session 2 minutes of the March 11th, 2009 school board. And I'd just like to ask if the minutes still reflect that the family grant due March 7, 2019 was not approved, if that was the vote tonight. Okay. The information being circulated at the polls and around town is that the SAU dropped the ball and didn't submit the grant application in time, and thus it wasn't accepted by the Department of Education. Because that's going around the town, I would just ask the board to confirm or deny that and let the public know what's being done. There was an update tonight indicating there's an appeal, but the public doesn't know what happened. They don't know what's going on, and there's a great amount of our public that rely on this program for their after-school care, some of which are lower reduced lunch or no lunch people that get help in the program that may not be able to afford after-school
programs in the future. And I think as public officials and elected officials, to vote if that was what was approved tonight, to indicate that it was not approved, creates the appearance of a not true picture of what happened. I think the public deserves to know what happened without getting into any personnel issues, because in reality, if the ball was dropped, the board owns it.
Can I ask a question of the speaker?
Do you mind, Mr. Brown?
Just a clarifying question. What do you mean when you say if the board voted not to approve the program? Is that
No.
what you said?
What I'm reading from the minutes, what the minutes that you voted to approve tonight,
Yeah.
I'll read the first sentence. Mrs. Vaughn advised the board that notice was received from the Department of Education
Yeah.
that application for the FAMI grant due on March 7, 2019 was not approved. That sounds like we applied for a grant, went through the process and didn't get approved.
Okay.
If the process is that we failed to get the grant in on time, the public deserves to know that, and the public also needs some answers from the board as what the plan is, because the only thing that's out in the public right now is rumors. And rumors aren't doing this board or the people that rely on that program any good. So if there was a mistake made, in my opinion, the rightful thing to say is, we dropped the ball, we have an appeal in process, this is our plan A, B, and C. To say it wasn't approved creates the appearance of non-truthful information being put out to the public that you serve.
Thank you.
Superintendent, wish to address that at all?
At this point, without discussing personnel issues, the grant was submitted late, and it is presently under appeal.
Other members of the public, anybody here to speak to the board? Okay. Our next meeting is April 1st? Second? It is April 1st. Next public meeting is April 1st, right here at 6:30. You have something you wanted to plug?
Oh, I just wanted to talk about Dancing with the Stars. It's also coming up.
Before we sign out here.
Before we sign up, yeah.
Dancing with the Stars is a fundraiser that the Athletic Boosters is cooperating with the athletic department in holding on April 13th. It's a Saturday. I think it's 2 p.m.
I
Am I
tried
right
to
in
look
that?
through.
I think it's 2 p.m. There's a lot of social media stuff out there right now. I'm sure that Mrs. Peabody's probably going to try to put some of that on the respective school pages. But it's a fundraiser that Mrs. Peabody did for many years in Barrington. Had a huge success rate, so she's decided to
Bring it here.
bring it here, and we'll have a lot of people dancing.
Yes.
I will not be dancing.
I will not be dancing.
The last time I
Maybe in your
danced in
seat.
public, it wasn't pretty. And I think I was fined.
One other announcement is the Wellness Fair is also on April 4th at Henry Wilson from 5 to 7. A bunch of community programs will be featured. The library will be there, and community partners, so a lot of good resources for the community.
And there's time to come at 5 and make it to the Opera House on time to
for seven.
get a good seat for 7 o'clock,
Yeah.
so.
I think I want to say something else, Mr. Brown, in reference to FAMI. It just kind of went through my head. What the superintendent just stated is true. It was a late submission. Because of that late submission, that was the reason it was denied. There is an appeal process going on. As far as what the plan is, we started very preliminary last week just to throw some ideas out, but we're a little taken aback by this ourselves as a board. And to be honest, I'm not sure there are 5 other people just as upset as we were last week when we found this out. We have to digest this. We have some non-public stuff to discuss tonight in reference to personnel and what happened. And then we will be putting a plan together if we do not win our appeal. I think that needs to be said, and I think that's about as much as I can say at this point. But your disappointment is shared with, amongst all of us. Yes. If you can. Oh, yeah, sure, sir.
I respect what you said, and I respect the personnel issues and the personnel law. Just for me, I have a hard time sitting back, seeing the minutes approved, indicating that the March 7, 2019 grant was not approved. That's not transparent to the public. And the public knows that the application wasn't submitted on time, because obviously I'm here as a taxpayer in front of you telling you that I know it wasn't submitted on time. So your wording doesn't appear the transparency with the public, and it's being discussed out in the public. And without clarifying that, it looks wrong.
Right, but it's been clarified tonight by the superintendent as echoed by myself.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you. Anything else?
And reflected in tonight's
Yes,
medicine.
yep.
Yeah, I just wanted
Yeah.
to, if I may, announce, it's kind of Ms. Vaughn's announcement, but I'll just reiterate it. The administration is working on the district calendar for next school year. So her team has created a survey. It's been sent out, and it's available on the SAU61.org website. If anyone needs a paper survey, please just call the SAU office.
Absolutely.
And what we're looking for is feedback on parent conferences, times, format, dates, whatever works best for families, and calendar options, so that they can take that into consideration when developing a school calendar for presenting to the board in the
We have-
next couple
We have
weeks.
55 responses so far.
Excellent.
So
that survey will be open until 5 PM next Monday, March 25th. So please go out of your way to try and provide your input and have a say in the school district's calendar. It's important.
Okay. Next meeting, April 1st, right here at 6:30. Thank you to those that are joining us from home and to those of you who came out this evening. I'll entertain a motion to go into non-public session 1 under RSA 91A:3, 2A, B, and C, personnel. So moved by Mr. Frieda, second by Ms. McElhenney. All those in favor by roll? Aye. Good night.